Guys, welcome back to the channel. Racer X here, and it is a frozen wonderland here in Dallas, Texas today. So there won't be any 0 to 60 pulls like I had initially intended to do for you today with my Mustang. Today I'm going to cover a different topic, and it's one a lot of you guys have been asking me about. A lot of you guys have been following my channel for a long time, and I put out a lot of videos about different things, different topics around Mopars, Hemis, Chargers, Challengers, all that kind of stuff. For many years now, I've been putting out a lot of content on Mopars, Dodges, all that kind of stuff. Today, I'm actually going to take a few minutes and I'm going to talk to you guys about 10 different things, must-know things about Dodges, Hemis, and really kind of the Mopar brand, which is now Stellantis, as many of you guys know, but 10 critical things that you should know as a Mopar owner, whether you own one now or you're going to own one later. It's all really important stuff, so I will put it all together for you in one video. It should be a good one. Also, guys, if you are new to my channel, please do me a big, gigantic favor. Hit that subscribe button right down there at the bottom if you're not already subscribed. I would really, really appreciate it. You can follow me on Instagram. I'm going to go inside where it's warm, so here we go. So today is just one of those days where it's best to just stay in off the roads. It is an absolute ice rink outside, which seems to happen every year here in Dallas this time of year. Some of you guys are used to it, but around here, it's not good for car content. So today I figured, you know what? Let's talk about 10 different things that if you're gonna own a Mopar, you already own a Mopar, you're a fan of Mopar or Dodge, these are all things that I definitely think you should know and subjects of many of my other previous videos. But number one on my list today is about the Scat Pack, and the standard Scat Pack, the one that comes with the 245s on the back. So just keep in mind, if you're buying a Scat Pack that's not a wide body that come with the 305s, or if it doesn't have the optional Dynamics package, which comes with a little bit better 275s, you're getting 245s on your Scat Pack. The very first thing you're going to want to do is go out and get yourself a new set of wheels and some wider tires, at least in the back, because you will find yourself extremely frustrated trying to drive that car with any sort of passion and still have that thing hook up at all. The 245s on the Scat Pack are worthless. Dodge should not have done that. They should have minimally put a 275 underneath the butt end of a Scat Pack, because it has so much torque and so much punch, which is what makes it great. But you're just going to be super frustrated if you don't upgrade your wheels and tires. Go to at least a 9.5-inch wheel, maybe a 10-inch wheel, and put yourself more meat back there, maybe a little bit stickier compound, and you will be a much happier Scat Pack owner. So now, the next thing I want to talk about is something that has concerned a lot of you guys, and I actually put a video out about this. It's about the Hemi Tick. Yes, a lot of people were very concerned on their 5.7 or their 6.4 Hemi engines. If that ticking sound, is it normal? Is it something that's going to blow up? Is it lifter failure? All that kind of stuff. So like I said, I did put a video out about this, but really, this issue is not as common as people want to believe it is. It's not like this affects 1 out of every 2 Hemi engines. It just doesn't work that way, guys. And I think it gets a little bit blown out of proportion, but it's still something you need to be aware of, that this can happen. And really the 2 main causes of this in a nutshell are excessive idling and really just not doing your maintenance on your engine, oil changes and things like that. If you keep up with your oil changes, you don't let your car sit there and idle just endlessly, typically you won't have big problems with your Hemi engine. You just have to care for the thing. So it's not that crazy of a thing. Like I said, a lot of people were overly concerned about, hey, is my engine going to blow up? I hear this ticking. The Hemis do tend to tick a little bit just because of the way they're made. That pushrod engine is just sort of the way they sound a little bit. And a lot of people were just really concerned that their engine was going to fail. Like I said, be mindful of those 2 things. Just because your car only has 5,000 miles, but it sits in idles for hours on end, that's still wear and tear on the engine. So be mindful of that. Get your oil changed regularly. Put good quality oil in it. And typically the Hemi Tick is not nearly as big a thing as people make it out to be. Okay, so next thing on my list is something that's actually pretty simple. Most car guys really understand the principle of this, but it's just about putting good quality fuel in your vehicle. I mean, these engines, these are high performance engines for the most part, and you just have to make sure that you're putting the best quality octane that you have available to you. Even in the summertime, I remember with my Hellcat, a lot of times when I was really pushing on that thing, you could hear a little bit of detonation happening, and that was with 93 octane in there. But on like a really hot summer day like it gets here in Dallas, sometimes those types of things do occur. And yes, you have knock sensors and you have things like that, but you should always be putting the best quality fuel you have available to you. Certain stations sometimes get even better quality fuel than others. So just be mindful of the quality of the fuel you're putting. Don't be cheap and put in cheap quality fuel. Now, maybe on the Hemi, the 5.7, you can get away with going down in octane just a little bit, maybe one notch, but don't put 87 in that thing. And then at the end of the day, you know, if you're running a SRT or a 6.4, or you're running the Hellcat engine, please put the best quality octane you have, 93 if you have it available, but very minimal, put 91 octane in it just to keep that engine happy and healthy, and your engine will actually thank you for it. So like I said, very simple concept. Most people know it, but some people try and, you know, cut the corners a little bit. Definitely not something you should do. So the next one is for you 392 guys out there, and there are a bunch of us. And really the biggest thing with the 392 is it comes very optimized from the factory. I've talked about this many times, but you're getting 485 naturally aspirated horsepower coming directly from the factory. And when you compare it to the Coyote or the LS engines from Chevy, all that kind of stuff, the LT engines, all that good stuff, I mean, it just puts out more horsepower from the factory. The Hemis are very punchy, lots of torque. But at the end of the day, because it comes out very optimized from the factory, horsepower is pretty expensive to gain on the 392. Now you can go in, I've talked about it many times, there are some very simple modifications that you can do to pick up just a little bit of horsepower, but you're not gonna pick up a ton. And then if you go in and try and do something like a cam, for example, it's not like on an LT or an LS engine where you can simply slide the cam in. It's pretty simple to do. And the fact of the matter is you're gonna spend, you know, $4 or $5 grand to put a cam in, and a lot of times you're really not gonna get that much horsepower out of a cam. So keep that in mind. I mean, if it's a drivable cam, you might see 25 horsepower, whereas if you're talking about the same engine from Chevy, it's a completely different story. I mean, a heads cam switch over to E85 long tube package on a Chevy where you may pick up 100 horsepower in some instances. On a Mopar, it will only be a fraction of that. You'll be lucky to see 30 to 40 if I'm being quite honest, and that's with a good tune. So just keep in mind, horsepower on the 392, it's just an expensive proposition to go into, and that bleeds me really into the next point. And so the fifth thing on my list is actually about the naturally aspirated Hemis, both the 5.7 and the 6.4. So we're not really talking about the Hellcat here. The Hellcat is made for boost. It's a great engine, very robust, but the naturally aspirated Hemis don't really like boost that well. That doesn't mean you can't boost them. I've seen Pro Charge ones, I've seen some with Maggies on them and Whipples and all sorts of stuff, but anything over 7 pounds, you're really risking engine failure. And it seems to be the land rings. That seems to be kind of the bugaboo of that engine. Not in every case, but those things just don't really like a lot of boost. It's not like a Coyote with the dual overhead cam design, and you know, you got the 4 valves per cylinder, all that kind of stuff. Different kind of design. It's a standard push rod, and they just don't like boost nearly as much. So if you're gonna boost it, don't boost it more than about 7 pounds to keep it safe. I've heard guys say, oh, I run 10 pounds all the time. It's a ticking time bomb at that point, guys. It's only a matter of time. Doesn't mean you can't build the engine and go for more, but if you're planning on boosting either the 5.7 or the 6.4, just keep in mind that there are limitations to those, and they are much lower than they would be on a, say, an LT engine from Chevy, or especially the Coyote engine, which seems to really like boost from Ford. A very different deal there. So keep that in mind. So the sixth item on my list is really for you 5.7 guys out there. Now keep in mind, this Hemi has been a very proven engine for quite some time. I mean, they put it in all sorts of vehicles, Dodge does, and it's just proven itself time and time again to be a reliable, very solid platform, puts out good torque, and we love the Hemi, right? But just keep in mind, if you're buying a 5.7 Charger or Challenger, That vehicle is not designed to compete against the SS Camaro or the LT1, whichever one has the 6.2 in it, the Corvette, or the Coyote or the Mustang 5.0. I mean, those cars are just faster than the 5.7. Really, the Scat Pack is a much better matchup for those. And, that's just something you have to keep in mind. So if you buy the 5.7, it is an absolutely fantastic package for the street. I wouldn't necessarily classify it as a race car, but it is a sweetheart of an engine. It still sounds fantastic, but just don't go around, if you buy the 5.7 Charger or Challenger, don't go around trying to race a bunch of Coyote engines, with the Mustang, or run around trying to race a bunch of Camaro SS's. They just pack a lot more punch than the 5.7 does. Like I said, I don't want to take anything away from that engine or that package, because I think it's fantastic. It's just not nearly as fast as those. So you just kind of have to understand the limitations of that particular trim. So that is actually a perfect segue into my 7th point, and that is to understand what the Hemi engine is. As I mentioned, it's a pushrod engine. These things put out massive amounts of torque, whether it's the 5.7, the 6.4, or the Hellcat. The Pentastar, a little bit different there. Obviously, you have a V6, and that's more made for the masses and just for, regular folk. But when you're talking about their performance engines, understand these things are made to be very, very torquey. They're not actually made to be highway monsters. So if you're somebody who likes to go out and race and put things in your favor, well, just remember, put a big tire underneath the back of it where you can take advantage of all that extra torque, and that's going to put you ahead. So that's why you see so many Mopars, like in the 8th mile and stuff, that are so formidable when compared to the competition, because you got to compete with all that torque. Yes, I know the Mopar is typically going to be the heavier car, but sometimes that helps it plant a little bit. And if it can plant the power, typically it's going to get out ahead because of all that fantastic torque. So these things are not made to be highway monsters. Don't go out and roll a bunch of, Coyotes and, much lighter, smaller cars. Use that torque to your advantage. Race from a dig with some big sticky tires on there. And like I said, even in the 5.7, 6.4, and especially on the Hellcat, not to mention, the Hellcat is pretty formidable on the highway as well, but it's a supercharged offering. But definitely keep in mind that these things are torque monsters. They're really, really good down low. They're not quite as good up top compared to some of the other stuff out there. So use that torque to your advantage. So my 8th point, and this is a big one. I've put out videos about this one as well. And it is just sort of disappointing when you really think about it pretty hard. But if you buy an upper level trimmed Mopar, whether it's a Charger, a Challenger, it could be a Trackhawk, whatever, for some odd reason, you have made yourself a bit of a target. These high-end Mopars are getting stolen left and right. It is a very, very common thing out there, especially in some cities, to go out and get your Mopar or your Hellcat or your 392 or whatever, and just come to find your car is gone. It's a very, very common thing right now. For some reason, the hoodlums and the thieves have picked Mopar as like their target brand. I always call it's kind of like the Raiders of the 80s for some reason, but that seems to be the case. So just be mindful of the fact that if you have a really nice high-end Mopar, that just by default, you have kind of made yourself a little bit of a target. And the possibility does exist out there that car may be stolen at some point. So take the proper precautions as a Mopar owner. If you have a garage, obviously always park it in the garage. But do what you can to try and prevent thieves from coming in and stealing your car, because it is extremely common to see high-end Mopars getting taken all the time, cities across the nation. Sad, but true. So just be mindful of that piece of it. So my 9th point actually bleeds just slightly into my last point, and that is, and maybe this is just my opinion on things, this is kind of part of the reason that I left Mopar to begin with, is just the fact that if you go out and buy a Charger Scat Pack or even an RT, I mean, especially a Hellcat, that's, like I said, that's one of the big ones out there too. It doesn't necessarily give you the right to run around and act like a complete ass clown. And, forgive me for saying that, but that's the truth of it. And it's very, very prominent out there to see people closing down highways, acting a fool, taunting police. Some YouTube channels have gone so far as to kind of glorify this activity. I won't say who they are, but it's just a joke. And they get a lot of views on people saying, oh, you know, this is so funny. Watch these people run away from cops and do all this kind of stuff. And what's happening there, guys, and I've mentioned this time and time again, is it's giving all of us in the car community, even people that aren't associated with Mopar, but especially if you're a Mopar owner, it's giving us a terrible look. And, you know, with great power, as I mentioned, comes great responsibility. And Dodge has gone out there and given us these fantastic, super powerful, good-looking cars. And when you have these irresponsible people that are getting a hold of these, it's ruining it for everybody because they're out there really kind of putting a target on everybody's back. So just because you have, you know, one of these high-end Mopars and you have a lot of power, it doesn't give you the right to act like an idiot. And a lot of people think that's the case, and it's just kind of sad. But anyway, guys, like I said, it's more of my opinion on things. Hopefully most of you guys share that sentiment as well, but that has got to come to a stop. And now to my very last point, and possibly my most important, and this is just fantastic, one of my favorite things ever. So, you know, really the big thing with Dodge is that they are one of the coolest car companies out there. I mean, they keep everything very configurable. They haven't strayed too far from their roots. Obviously, we're going to EV technology now, but they still make the only true muscle car out there in the Challenger. And think about this, 11 different trims in the Challenger. And that doesn't even include some of the special edition stuff they have out there. You know, like the Black Edition Hellcats and the Hemi Orange stuff for the 392 guys. I mean, stuff like that. That is so cool. I mean, they make so many different trims. They make 7 trims in the Charger, and it's really the last kind of Mohican, if you will, because the Charger, I mean, what other big American sedan makes the big power and it still has all of that like heritage and all that kind of stuff? I mean, the Charger is kind of it when it comes to American powerful sedans. I can't think of anything else out there that really even competes with the Charger from that perspective. So a lot of different trim levels out there, lots of special edition packages. We have the new jailbreaks coming out, and Dodge continues to try to be that very unique, different, kind of in-your-face type company. And that's something we have all grown to love and appreciate about Mopar. So hopefully they'll continue to do that here in the near future, going out into the distant future, because obviously they don't want to alienate their core or their brand enthusiasts. And man, I love that about Dodge. So if you're thinking about buying a Mopar, you already own a Mopar. They talk about the brotherhood of muscle, and really that's kind of what it is that like they want to stick to their heritage and the big power, the tire shredding stuff, and that's part of what makes Dodge so much fun. So you know, continue to appreciate the things that Dodge does, because they still continue to kind of just buck the stereotype, if you will, and just say, screw it, we're our own thing. We're going to continue to do our own thing. And even though we're bleeding into EV technology, hopefully they'll continue to keep things unique and keep the brand relevant. I'm really looking forward to it. So we'll see what they come up with. Well, guys, that is about it. That's kind of my 10 big things that you should know as a Mopar owner, as a possible Mopar owner, somebody who's owned Mopars in the past, if you're a fan of Mopar. These are all things that I feel like it's important to know. Like I said, it's stuff I've shared on previous videos, but I've never compiled a list like this all in one place. So I figured I would go ahead and do that. Let me know if you agree with my, my top 10 here in the comments down below, and I will catch you on the next one. So until then, Racer X.